All right. My name is Kyle. Uh, I go by Darfix, or Darf, I guess you could say, and I'm here with my friend Matthew. You want to introduce yourself?
My name is Matthew. I also go by Nyrox, and yeah, that's about it. I
Yeah,
think.
yeah. We're pretty much just gonna do.
How
I
that
mean,
work?
both of us are a fan or fans of the Foxcraft series of books. We read the first two, and we were just kind of thinking about the third one and about some things that are actually going to be taking place in there. So it just kind of wanted to have a conversation, kind of speculate on some things that might be going on there.
Yeah, because you had some very crazy ideas, didn't you?
No, not me. I would never have any crazy ideas.
Yeah, you do. Come
Nah.
on.
So I guess the main thing would be for anybody that was a fan of the first two books, it'd be who's the mage and you know what the case might be, what might be going on there, because it would be kind of silly in our opinion, or my opinion at least. I'm pretty sure Nyrox shares the same opinion that it would end up being just some random character out of the blue that hasn't been introduced yet.
Yeah, because it'd be a bit weird if I'm not too sure whether this is the last book, but if it is, for we don't know who the character. We know the character is the mage, but we don't know who the mage is. So
Yeah.
we need a lot of introduction as to who he is, why he's doing what he's doing, and whatnot. And you need what the last book to be all about that. It's not wouldn't follow the same theme as the other books.
Yeah,
Makes sense.
to my understanding, this is going to be the last of the trilogy, and whether or
Yeah,
not more books are going to come out as part of this universe remains to be seen. And I'm sure it probably is going to be based off of how popular it is, or how much it sells, that sort of thing. But anyway, yeah, I mean, at this point in time, my controversial theory, I guess, would be that there is enough evidence to suggest that Piri, Isla's brother, might actually end up being a potential candidate for being the mage.
which I don't fully agree with, which is interesting already.
Yeah.
But
So I guess my theory on that is, when the start of the first book beginning, I think we get like a chapter of involvement with Piri as an actual character with actual dialogue and actual actions going on in the story, and then I think that's where it ends. It was at the end of the first chapter. He might have had like a little bit of introduction, or well, further dialogue and actions in the second chapter, but I think it was at the end of the first chapter there that boom, he's gone, and
yeah,
I think we all
just
know.
vanished.
Yeah, we all kind of know
Yeah,
what happened in that regard. But my theory is that essentially because he spends the rest of the duration of the book one ahead of Isla, and then toward the end of or at the beginning of book two, we find out that actually no, it was the end of the book one. We find out that he's already made it to the Wildlands or the Freelands, one of the two there, and Isla's still in the Greylands at this point in time.
yeah,
So at the start of the second book, Isla makes it to Wildlands, and during the portion that we're about halfway, I think it is, through the second book, we find out that he's already made it to the Snowlands. It's
yeah.
like, okay, well, he's a cub the same age of Isla, and spoiler alert, which we probably already should have warned about in the early stages
Oh
of this,
yeah,
but we'll get to that. But
oh, gonna be spoilers.
yeah,
Watch out, guys.
spoilers. Spoiler alert. We find out that Isla's great her ma and her fa were passed or were killed by the Taken in the first book. So it's like, well, how could Piri have made it all this way by himself? How could he always be one step ahead of Isla, unless you want to say that it's just for the sake of the story? But I mean, it just seems kind of strange to me. I mean, that he's always in communication with Isla for the most part. Like, and I'm not saying that, if he is the mage, I'm not saying that he's necessarily the big bad or the evil or whatever the case may be, because he obviously still has some attachment to Isla. He wouldn't be openly trying to put her into situations where she could be harmed or harm could come to her. I think that there's like a sibling bond there that he actually wants to be with her, and maybe even kind of go with the trope. I don't know what the name of the trope is, but of trying to like get her on his side or see things
Yeah,
through his.
come be mage with me.
Yeah, something like that. Let's grind up the world together and divide and conquer, or
Go
whatever the
get the
case may
white
be.
fox back or whatnot.
Yeah, yeah. So because of that, I just feel like that there's, obviously there's some things that I probably haven't gone into too much detail on, it's been like 2 months, 3 months or so since I actually finished reading the second book, so I'm a little fuzzy on some of the characteristics there or some of the finer points. But I just feel like that there's a lot of room for that potential to be there. There could be some kind of a reveal at the beginning of or halfway through the third book that might put all the pieces in place and be like, okay, there it is, boom, it's Piri. So I don't know. It's just kind of my thoughts.
I wouldn't shoot it down completely, but like I would say, like again, like why would he if he is the mage, like, or if he does become to be a mage, it's going to be interesting to explain why did he kill his parents and great ma? What was that all about?
Yeah, like I'm thinking
Did they
that,
die accidentally?
and
Accidentally killed?
the other thing is too is we only have Sifrin's word to go on that
He
great
is a
ma.
lying fox.
Yeah, that great
Yeah,
ma,
lying fox.
ma and fa are actually passed, and I'm not gonna say that Sifrin is a liar outright, but he does conceal things from Isla. He is a bit of a trickster, if you will.
There was something about that that came to me this morning. It was when I was reminiscing back on like stories that I read when playing World of Warcraft and whatnot. It changed me to think greatly of, did you see a body? Because like a lot of times in World of Warcraft, you'd be like, oh, we killed someone. They'd be like, no, he's back. It's like, but
Yeah.
he died. And like one character actually got disintegrated. No, he's alive. It's like, but he was disintegrated. There's nothing left of him. How is he alive?
Yeah.
So like, is it possible that did Sifrin specifically say, I saw their dead bodies?
And
What if they're not dead? What if he's gone there and gone, this smells of death, Pete's foxes, they're dead.
yeah, I think I think even with Isla too, like when she was made it back to her den, and there was mention in the early stages of the first book that she noticed like a little blood splatter on the ground. But
Yeah.
you would think
No
that
bodies.
if you would think that if it was a decent enough of a conflict or a fight there, that there'd probably be a little bit more evidence of that. But that is an interesting point though, because I mean, again, we're still like I like Sifrin. I think Sifrin's a great character. He's probably one of my favorite ones in the book. But I still think that there is a side of him that we don't know a whole lot about, and it's fairly easy to conjure up that belief that maybe he isn't telling Isla the full truth for one reason or the other.
Is it bad that I'm already thumbing through the book to see the moment where Sifrin tells Isla, and seeing whether or not Sifrin says, I saw their dead bodies, they are definitely dead.
Yeah, unfortunately.
It's happened too many times in games and stories that I've read where it's been like, well, that guy's clearly dead, and then you get to another part of the book, it's like, what? How are they alive? It's like, well, you didn't see a body. It's like, yeah. That's why you notice whenever you play games, I say, I want to take his head. So I know he's dead.
Fair enough.
When I take his head, I know he's dead, and then he can't come back.
Fair enough.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, you could probably thumb through the book right now, but I think the odds of finding it are probably pretty limited unless you remember exactly what chapter it was in. But
Vaguely.
yeah, it was a while back. But I mean, I think I mean we all know how Isla. If we read the book, we all know how Isla responded to Sifrin's reveal that he did know that what happened to her great ma and her fa and her ma. And,
I like that though.
Well, yeah, I like how
Isla, I'm gonna make him say it.
Yeah.
Oh dear.
And I get that, and that does, and I'm not saying. I mean, I find Isla to be a very appealing character as well. And I know she's younger, so she's got a little bit more of an immature or undeveloped mind in that regard. And I do think that if I was in her shoes, I probably would have reacted similarly. But again, it's like put yourself in Sinfra's perspective. Put yourself in his shoes. If he had come out right away and said, your parents are dead, she would not have been so eager to be, all right, well, let's go on this journey to find Piri, because, I mean, she probably wouldn't have given him the light of day. But again, kind of going off of what I was suggesting about Piri possibly being the mage, or could possibly be a mage or a candidate of being the mage. Maybe Sinfred knows something else that. Yeah. Well. Oh,
You said Sinfa.
did I? Well, I meant Sifrin. Sorry. Maybe Sifrin knows something else about Piri. If obviously he was there, at least in the general area. He knows enough details to come off as knowledgeable in that regard. But maybe his giving Isla the information that he did was just throwing her a bone. Is a way to try to like bring them together a little bit more on I guess, a mutual understanding or a bit of a trust issue there. Maybe he still knows something else, and he's just not ready to give up that information, and that information being that maybe Peary has more involvement here than we're led on to believe. I guess what I'm trying to say is, like, it seems suspicious to me that all we have really to go on so far with Peary is that he was in the first chapter and maybe a half.
He speaks with Isla,
Yeah.
and it's like, it is like odd how you were saying, like, in the first part of the book, Isla's in town, West Prairie, he's miles away.
Yeah.
Hey, wait, what? And then get to the second book, where is he? Oh, he's across the river from the Snowlands.
And at the end of the second book, we found out that the only way Isla could cross the river was by walking into it was Wakir, right?
An eagle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A Wakir into an eagle and flying over the river, despite being told many times, action girl trope in action there.
Yeah, but how did Perry get?
Yeah, and we know at least by the end of the second book that Sifrin didn't get across the water yet. I mean, I'm sure he's gonna find a way across, but it's just like somebody as able-bodied and knowledgeable as Sifrin being unable to get across that water, but Isla and supposedly Peary as well being able to just, we got this. 2 cubs, by the way, being able to do that. I don't know. It just seems really suspicious to me. It feels like there's something aiding him in his travels, the same way that Sifrin has essentially aided Isla in her travels. And plus, there was I think there was at some point in the early stages of the first book, some character, I can't remember if it was one of the, what were they called? That wasn't the bleached foxes, but the ones that hadn't been bleached, but were essentially like the captains.
I forget what that word is now.
Karaka was her name? Or Karka?
Yeah, Karka. Karka was like leading the bleached foxes, but she herself is not.
Yeah, she had a skulk of bleached foxes under her command, essentially, but she herself wasn't bleached. But I don't know. It just, to me, like, I think there's other candidates. There's obviously other potential candidates for the Mage, but it just feels like to me Peary is slightly edging out the rest of them in that competition because of the previous things that we mentioned.
Well, I found that bit in the book.
Oh, you did? Wow.
But yeah, I found another bit there where Sifrin said Sifrin.
It is.
Now I've done it.
Yeah, you said Sifrin.
I did. Oh, good. I
just you got it right.
Sifrin.
For those that don't understand, Sinfra is the name of a Fox character of mine, and that's why it's fairly easy for both of us to make that connection. But anyway.
But Sifrin told Isla again, we don't know whether or not he's telling the truth, we assume he does. He said that the Mage actually gave him the mark on his foreleg.
He
knows. Yeah, he does know who the Mage is by some degree.
To some degree, but the other thing that's interesting about that is an estimate on age span or her age would be putting Isla and Peary at like roughly a half of a year old if you're going by typical fox anatomy or whatever the hell you'd call it.
Yeah.
Foxes aren't like humans in that we're able to produce offspring whenever the hell we want to. It's they have specific seasons for when that happens, and it's once a year for foxes. So the idea that Sifrin's at least a year older than Isla. He has to be. So at this point in time, he's roughly at the lowest or at the youngest he could possibly be would be roughly a year and a half old, meaning that Peary couldn't have been, because he was a cub when he was he was almost bleached, Sifrin.
Yeah.
And
so he probably wouldn't even be alive.
So Peary wouldn't be alive. So that's why, like, again, I say that Peary is my number one suspect because I could see that being something that would throw you off the trail. Like, well, it couldn't have been Peary because he wouldn't have been old enough. But who's to say that the Mage isn't some? I don't want to say like an entity or a force or whatever, but maybe it's just a title that is given to a certain fox or earned by a certain fox at a certain stage of time. Maybe the Mage at that time is looking to pass that title on to Peary because he or she is either dead or dying.
There's that too, yeah.
So it's like
there could be that, the fact that he's making Mage or...
Yeah, I mean,
again, we don't know who the Mage is. He's just a person. We don't know who he is. We know what he is, but we don't know his name or
Yep.
anything else about him. So,
The elders had some speculation toward the end of the second book that what was the mention of the black fox? You had a little bit more
yeah,
detail on that than I did.
yeah, I remember that they're talking about they think the black fox is I can't remember which one he is. Was he
Shoot.
oh God, what was he?
I think he was.
But,
According to the glossary, it says the black fox forelore or fox lore tells of a fox who ran through fire to save his kind from enslavement by a demon. Through his flare of Foxcraft, the fox survived the flames and emerged blackened but unharmed. The term has become an honorary title bestowed on the wisest fox. There is only one black fox in any age, and he or she is traditionally an elder. It is common but not essential for the fox to have a dark pelt. So I was hoping that would give me more information there, but yeah.
yeah, but right there, that kind of screams like, oh, that one is clearly the mage, and that sounds too obvious to me.
Yeah, I think I would
Sounds
agree.
too obvious that it's going to be the one who is he has the title and he's well, not strongest but wisest fox, so therefore it's got to be him. That seems way too
Exactly, and
way too common.
but as I was getting at too, the elders mentioned that there was two of the elders that actually were missing or
Yeah.
unknown locations, and I think
There's that one.
that one, and I don't remember if that one was the master of pleaching or the
I
elder.
don't think it was.
I don't
no,
think
'cause
so
I think
either.
They said it was him and the master of bleaching.
Yeah, but I can't remember what the let's see, there was pleaching, and it just was right there after for a second there. God. Yeah, I can't remember, but should have read this again before we did this, but no. But yeah, I mean, essentially, it seems unlikely to me that it would be the Black Fox for the reasons that you said, but
Yeah.
it seems to me like maybe going on the Peary theory that he could possibly be a candidate for the Mage if he isn't the Mage now, possibly be a candidate for the Mage in the future. It almost feels like I don't know. It feels like there's a situation there where there's like grooming going on, where like you got these two,
Yeah.
possibly two of them, the two elders that are no longer in the picture, were also taken in by whoever the mage might be to
Yep.
maybe be tested or tried, and then maybe they didn't succeed, or maybe they were pleached, or maybe they're used as like generals or captains or whatever that terminology was that Karaka was.
Which is like I've said before, like what I think would it be possible that can the master of pleaching pleach the black fox? Is that possible? Because that would be a situation where you'd be like, well,
Well then,
that was bad.
yeah. What are we gonna do
That
now?
didn't go as planned.
Precisely.
What are we going to Guys, can you come help us, please?
Hmm.
It's like, but then I don't know if pleaching did they mention some of that? Does a fox lose any of its powers when it's pleached? Because I don't think it does it? It does become mindless, like in
Yeah, they're more or less like a husk, kind of, in the sense that they.
So, like, would you want to pleach the black fox in that case?
But actually, that's interesting too, because I remember a scene in the first book when Isla and Sifrin were running away from some pleached foxes, and they were on the rooftops of one part of the Greylands there. And I remember Isla and Sifrin jumping from one roof to another.
Oh yeah.
And I remember, I think it was, I think she had a name, but I can't remember. She might have been referenced via her name by some of the other pleached foxes. But I remember she either was voluntold or she volunteered to make the leap.
Yeah,
And-
she just, I think she just did.
Yeah,
She was like, "I'll do it," and it was like, "Oh,
there was clear hesitation among the other pleached foxes. Like, all right, if you're gonna do it, that's great. Just kind of we'll sit back and see how it goes, kind of thing. Nobody joined her, so she jumped and fell to her death. And then the rest of them were like, well, sod this, and
yeah."
sort of backed
Yeah.
off. And
Well, we're going away.
yeah, and
So they're probably not entirely pleached.
I don't think
Or
so.
sort of, like, entirely mindless.
I don't think so either, because I think even in the second book when Isla, Haki, and I don't think Sifrin was there at the time, but even when they were being they were assumed to be pleached foxes, and they were taken underground by a skull of
Yeah.
foxes. There was an encounter there with some pleached foxes that were trying to find them, and I remember there being some dialogue or an exchange
Oh,
that sort of hinted at the fact that they're not just mindless husks. So
And I don't know about I can't remember the Tao and Simi's family. But
Simi,
like,
yeah.
if you think about it, if they are mindless, Isla and Sifrin, or Isla at least, Isla and Heike, sorry, clearly were talking to them and trying to defend their case that they're not bleached foxes.
Yeah,
Surely, if they were mindless, they would have been like, okay, kill him anyway.
yeah, that's true.
So the fact that they were talking didn't seem to, make him go, oh, hang on,
Yeah,
bleached foxes can't talk. What the hell? So maybe a bleached fox does keep it because we don't know a whole lot about bleaching because
no,
Sifrin didn't really tell much about it, and the elders were kind of like, oh, well, we don't really want to. It's just
yeah.
it's
Well,
bad. Don't do it.
we didn't get a huge
So-
amount of time with the elders either before.
Yeah,
Things.
so we don't know the full extent of what bleaching actually does. So it could be possible that you do become a mindless drone and you can't do anything,
Yeah,
or maybe you retain all of the abilities you had before, which would mean pleasing the black fox would be a great idea if the elder of pleasing is the mage.
yeah, exactly.
Also found out the word for it. It's Noel.
Oh yeah, that's right.
How do you
Yeah.
pronounce that?
I
I
think
of Noel.
Narl works. Yeah. So that was the
Yeah,
the
yeah.
term for the non-pleached foxes that agreed to
Yeah.
side with the mage and are more or less given like a captain sort of position over some pleached
Which
foxes.
spoilers, Heike probably will be. When he comes back.
Unfortunately, and that actually brings up an interesting topic too, because I remember we were
Damn
talking
that
about
fox.
Heike a little bit the other day.
Yeah.
As a possible, well, not necessarily a suspect for the mage, because I mean, granted, that would be a hell of a
It could. Well, right now, that's the thing because we don't know who the mage is. It could be Greatmar, for all we know.
it could be, yeah.
It could be Greatmar. Greatmar could have survived, and
But as we know with Heike, he was found by Isla trapped in a gorge of some sort with water rising, and with the story that dogs chased him down there or whatever the case may be. But then we found out later that that was all a ruse to
yeah,
trap Isla and to fall into her band, her party. You must travel or gather your party before venturing forth, kind of thing. But so like that raises questions too, like because I can't remember the specifics, but I don't remember if he was actually in league with the dogs. I think that's what the case was, though, wasn't it?
well, I don't know because we read that last night, and I was like, I don't remember him leading dogs away though. I remember him leading Pete's foxes away,
Yeah. So
which that could easily be explained
yeah, it certainly could.
because like Heike was in league with them, but I don't remember anything about the dogs. I mean, I know he tricked the two dogs by going like, "Oh, there's rabbits down there, tons of rabbits."
Yeah, but
Tons of
again,
rabbits.
this was all part
don't
of the ruse, though, for him being down there, so he could have made that story up or whatever the case
Possibly, yeah.
made for Isla there. But yeah, that's interesting. But with Heike, yeah, I mean, he's a very big question mark at this point in time too, because throughout the first, throughout the second book, you're led to believe that he's just kind of a clumsy fox that following around Isla because she seems to be very adept.
Talks too much.
He
wasn't
talks
he?
too
I was
much.
gonna say,
Yeah, he was a talker.
his mum said he always talked too much, like me.
Which does make him rather adorable as a character, in my opinion. But
It does. I was quite upset when it was just like, "Oh, Heike, no." So
Again-
you haven't. Oh, he betrayed. He betrayed Isla. You little. Oh,
again, this could go
Heike, why?
several ways though too, because he was more or less forced into it, the same way that Tao and
Yeah.
Simi could have almost been forced into it because of to get their family back, sort of thing. But again, is that a story that he made up? Is he? Let's just put it this way: if I was the mage right now, and I wanted to, go follow the I forget what the philosophy is, but keep your friends close and your enemies closer. What better way to do it than to be the bumbling idiot of the group, more or less?
yeah, that work.
Nobody's going to suspect
Yeah.
you. And toward the end of the second book, when it is discovered that Heike has betrayed Isla and friends, he falls back while the bleached foxes storm into Elder Rock and cause all the chaos that takes place there, and then we don't see him again.
Yeah.
I mean,
the one thing that I would throw doubt upon Heike, if he was the mage, one thing I'd throw doubt about that would be like, surely the mage would just be like, well, I'm not gonna fall out of this and just kill Isla. But then I don't know whether or not the elders were more the target than she was.
I think in that case
They could probably, yeah.
I think in that
There
case
is that.
they were, but the other thing to add too is that Piri and Isla communicated through what the heck was it called? It wasn't Walk Here because Walk Here was the shapeshifting ability, but there was another ability.
Gerasham.
Girasham, that's the one. Yeah, you're right.
Oh, yep.
And where they were able to communicate. So there was some indication there that Isla was. Well, originally it was Piri, because Sifrin originally was looking for Piri. Remember that at the first book.
Yeah.
And then he found Isla instead, and Isla sort of tagged along, or whatever the case may be. And then that's when he sort of discovered that, holy crap, Isla is actually just as capable at Foxcraft as Piri was. And that's, at least in my opinion, part of the reason why he's as interested in being with her as the time, or as he would have been with Piri. But again, so the Gerasham, they're able to communicate back and forth. It's indicated that Piri and Isla both are foxes of exceptional adeptitude. Ability.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
There
you go. Good job.
At Foxcraft, and it was mentioned that Great Ma had some natural abilities and that sort of thing. But so it seems to me, at least, that whoever is the big bad with the grand scheme of things here, the grand design, blah blah blah. They want Piri for a reason, and they want Isla for a reason. There hasn't been a great amount of effort put toward killing off Isla because she's getting in the way or anything like that. There's been some efforts to capture her, but not so much to kill her. So if the same is being applied
Where's
to
the book?
if the same is being applied to Piri, and I'm assuming it is because he's getting along further along than Isla is without any hindrance that we know of. It just, again, it falls into the place that whoever this mage is, if it isn't Piri or somebody else that we know of already, it's almost looking like they're either trying to build an army of capable foxes, or they're looking for somebody to take their place, or they may have already passed and somebody else is sort of like moving around the puppet strings or whatever, it's something like that. But
Oh, well, I found where the fiction made her plunge. Barker Tawny Fixer, so she had no name.
Oh, okay, all right, fair enough.
She was just fiction henchman number 4.
Fair does.
Not as good as fiction henchman number 5, but I was looking over that as well because I thought when I was looking over that a bit I was looking for earlier, I thought I saw mention somewhere of Karka mentioning specifically not killing Isla. I
think that was toward the end. If it wasn't before, I remember it also being towards the end of the first book. I thought when I forget the wolf's name that she freed from the zoo before he showed up on scene, and
Big Badass Wolf, I think his name is.
Yeah, something like that. But I do think I remember because it looked very likely that Isla was going to be cornered and captured by Karaka and her pleached foxes. And then I'm pretty sure I remember something along the line of Karaka saying, we're not killing her, we're taking her to the Mage, or something like that, something to that effect.
Yeah, which indicates, raises questions, which is why?
Certainly,
Why do you... Why does Great Ma the Mage want Isla? Calling it that. You laugh. You watch. Watch when it turns out to be Great Ma.
And here, I thought you were leaning towards Sifrin as being.
I don't know who I'm leaning towards. Really, it could be Sifrin. Sifrin could be the Mage.
It very well could be. And,
but let's roll the stage. It could be Jana for all we know.
Yeah, that's actually another good point because Jana is actually kind of a curious character in that,
she's the Mage.
Well, the thing is like Sifrin had to have been roughly Isla's age, give or take, when he encountered Jana, and he had the mark on him as a pleached fox or whatever the case was with that. I forget, it was a situation where she performed a Foxcraft ability to unpleach him or whatever the case was, or if he was just sort of pseudo pleached or what. But
we were talking about that as well, weren't we? Saying how Sifrin, they mentioned, well, not mentioned, but they hinted that you can unpleach a fox
to some degree, or
didn't specifically say how.
Yeah, or what the effects were.
Yeah, because Sifrin has the mark on his foreleg.
Yep.
But he's not pleached, is he? Because that's the other thing as well. What if he's still bleached?
He really, I mean,
Could be still bleached. You don't know.
the thing, yeah, I mean, and that goes back to what we were saying before about bleach foxes not being complete mindless drones, but
Yeah.
he does exhibit like a considerable less amount of that mindlessness that a bleached fox does. You know, I mean,
Yeah.
he's a lot more coherent and
Also, he has lied before. You know, he could still be lying.
he
Could be lying all
he
the
very
time.
well could be, and that would be
Lied to poor little Isla.
that would be in my opinion very unfortunate because that would crush me almost as much as it would
Yeah.
crush Isla, I'm sure. But
It would be horrifying reading that and being like, well,
yeah,
then, so Sifrin's going to die, sadly, probably.
well, if
But,
that's the case, but
Yeah. But, I found it here somewhere as well. I don't see anything here about Sifra saying, yeah, I saw dead bodies. He does say that your great man was courageous, so you wouldn't let Karka steal her will.
I remember that.
But, like, did you see any bodies?
Yeah, and again, it feels like it feels like there's details missing, whether or not they're intentionally being with or not included, or whether or not that's to spare Isla's emotions as a very emotional cub that went through a lot of trauma, whether or not it's because he has nefarious reasons for doing so. I mean, it's anybody's guess,
Yeah. It says here as well that Sifrin says that they dragged her parents, they dragged Great Ma away with her mother and father, and set cinders to your den.
Yeah. So again, no bodies, like you were saying before.
Why would they? Because like that explains like, oh, okay, that's why there weren't any bodies at the den. But then, wait, why weren't the bodies at the den? Why would they take the bodies away?
There's got to be a reason for that, and I don't know.
It says as well, when Isla asks, "Where's my brother?" Sifrin's responsible if he wasn't there.
Mm-hmm.
Did he already run away?
Yeah, and what would cause him to do that actually too?
Is it confirmed that the mage actually has Perry? Is that like an actual thing?
I don't think that's been confirmed because
what if there's a Sifrin for Perry who came in and stole him away somewhere?
His communication with Isla through Garasharm was always, I'm on the move. And then toward the end of the second book, it was
indicating, wasn't it?
Yeah, toward the end of
he's under some kind of duress. Somewhere.
Yes, some kind of duress, and that Isla was in danger if she continues to try to communicate with him through Garasharm, and that ended up being the case. Whether or not that's what Piri was referring to, basically whether or not he might be the mage or the mage's accomplice or apprentice or whatever the case might be there.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I mean, that raises a lot of questions too. So,
Interesting things are going to happen in this book.
Yeah, and
September already.
That makes two of us. But
September.
I feel like there's more that we could discuss, though. I mean, I know we've been kind of spinning our tires a little bit on some of this, but so anyway, yeah, I mean, like Piri is sort of at the top for my speculation, just because I think that.
Yeah,
I think there's enough evidence there to suggest that it could be the case, and I think that that would be like probably the most likely candidate going from a trope kind of way of looking at it, if that makes sense.
That's the thing I remember now as well. We were talking about like if this is going back to what we said earlier, like if this is the third book, and it's going to be the last. Sorry, if this is the third book, if it's going to be the last book, then in a lot of other books and stories or whatever you the main character would have already been named by now. So
that's true.
Yeah, so like it sort of indicates that because the mage hasn't been named, indicates that we already know who the mage has already been named.
Exactly, and because I mean, I've
met him.
I've seen stories, or I've read or played a game or whatever the case may be, where there was a story where it was pulled off, not very well, mind you, where the big bad at the end ends up being revealed as somebody that you've never met throughout the game, and it's or the book or whatever the case is, and it's like, huh?
What was that? Sort of like the Black Cauldron. No, it wasn't Black Cauldron, was it? No, it wasn't. It was a different film. It was a different film that had a weird ending. I can't remember what it was. But
Are you thinking of Phone Booth?
Maybe.
Phone Booth was the whatever. We're getting off
No,
topic.
no. It was a cartoon, so that you showed me where. Yeah, that happened. Was like, here's the big bad guy. Who is it? It's Dave from accounting.
Yeah, but
Who? Oh yeah, Dave. We don't know who he is. It's like,
I wanted to go back to what you were saying there too about you were talking about how this is the third book and the big bad hasn't been revealed yet or named. Well, that's actually another thing I was thinking about before we started the conversation here, is that I'm looking at the map for the lands of Foxcraft, and you got the Grey Lands, which we've been introduced to in the first book. We got the Free Lands and the Wild Lands and Elder Rock, which we were introduced to in the second book. And then in the third book, the Snowlands are arguably going to, well, I'm sure of it because Isla's already there. Yeah. That's where the third book's going to be taking place. So everything west of Elder Rock, which would be the upper Wildlands, the Dark Lands, Ghost Valley, the Deep Forest, the Marshes, the lower Wildlands, all of that was only mentioned in the second book. We actually never went there, and it seems curious to me that it would be something that would actually be labeled on the map if that wasn't something that was going to be explored in more detail.
It could just be a thing like they've been talked about, so herefore there they are.
I still feel like that's a large amount of...
Yeah, it is. I agree with you. There is... it is a case of, if you're just going to talk about it, why put it there in the first place?
Yeah. So I feel like despite the fact that this is going to be to my understanding at least, I believe it's a trilogy. There might be more to it than that. If it is a trilogy, chances are it's going to start and end in the Snowlands, because the other two books started and ended in...
You have to wait for a fourth book. Can you imagine that?
That'd be... Yeah. But anyway, I think... wow, that actually puts a lot more thought into this. Like, if that's the case, if there is a fourth book in this trilogy, not necessarily this universe, in this trilogy or this series or whatever you want to call it. But anyway, I just wanted to bring that up because I thought that was interesting.
Yeah. Well, because I thought, like, did they not go through the marshes?
No, I think if I remember correctly, Hockey mentioned that he was from the marshes and he went through the Ghost Valley or
yeah, because just looking at the map, it's just like I just suddenly realized, like, wow, Elder Rock isn't that far away from the town.
No, it's not. Well,
I think they walked ages. Well, it doesn't look like it on the map.
Yeah,
I'm sure
the town
is bigger than it is.
The city is definitely. I mean, it's like any other map where if you want a map of this style where like there's detail.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I guess we're slightly getting off topic there too. But
possibly, yeah. Like who else can we throw blame on?
Right now, my top three is Piri. Piri number one. I'd have to say Sifrin number two, despite the fact that I really think that would be kind of a cheap shot, if that makes any sense. Yeah. And then Heike at number three, because I still think that what I mentioned before, if I was the mage, that would be literally the place I would want to land myself or position myself for my strategizing. This is where I'm going to gain the most intel on my foe. Especially if it's a foe you don't want to kill. Isla, It doesn't seem like he wants to kill Isla. So this is where I want to be. And then just the fact that he sort of his reveal at the end was just really just bam, there it is. And then he fell back.
Bye.
Pretty much. But he didn't say it like that. I mean, if Hockey isn't the mage and he was legitimately doing that just because he wanted to save his family, he's not going to see...
That sets him up for...
Yeah.
I don't know what the trope is, but that sets him up for the trope of him being... what was it? Sympathetic bad guy or something? Or
I think that it sounds about
something
right.
Like that, where like he's evil, but he can be talked back over into being a good fox again.
Again, I would argue that that's not really an evil act. I mean...
No, it's not. He's good, isn't he, really?
Well, possibly, but...
It's good being forced to do evil rather than him becoming evil.
Yeah. But...
Like, I don't think I have a top three, because I look at it and I go, well, I don't think it can be any of the two missing. But if it is any of the two missing elders, that seems a bit obvious, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean, that would be weird.
I don't think it'd be that obvious.
Because we haven't been introduced to them as characters, really. They've been name dropped. They've been name dropped, but it's like, okay. I mean, if I was reading the third book, if the third book ends up being the last one in the series, and it's revealed that I don't even remember their names. That's how insignificant their roles were in the second, and I don't even think they were mentioned in the first book at all. In the second book, it's like I'd be like, oh, okay,
Yeah, it'd be like, well, it'd just be reading it and being like, well, yeah, of course it's that one because
yeah,
it's, who else would, who else is going to be? Like, it seems a bit too obvious that it'd be one of those two,
yeah.
even though it quite clearly could be.
But and again, there's a fairly small amount cast here of characters, a fairly small.
Yeah, there's not a lot to pick from.
Yeah. So I feel like my theory is at least the three that I selected. I feel like it's obviously not the case, but I feel like I have 100% chance of being right in one of those three. You know?
Probably, yeah, because like I said, there's no, because the only people we know it can't be are the people who are confirmed dead, like Mox and Tao and Simi's family and everyone else.
Yeah.
We know it can't be them
Well,
because they're dead. They're actually dead.
Was Simi's and Tao's family confirmed dead though? Because I thought the parents in the older
aunties. Yeah, I think the parents were taken.
Yeah,
because
Mox was murdered or executed,
Monty, sadly.
or whatever you want to say. Yeah, because he wouldn't have been useful as a bleached fox. But
no. But I think the aunties and uncle, I think they were killed.
I think
But
you might be right there.
Yeah, but for whatever reason, their parents were taken,
Yeah,
which is also a bit strange. Like, okay,
because some of
obviously they have something there that is worth
because
keeping them.
some of Simi's and Tao's motivation in the last half of the second book was we want to get our family back, so we're going to learn Foxcraft, and then I think the elders.
Teach the others.
Yeah, it was the elders that
Yeah.
cast them off and said, "Hey, go teach the other skulks."
Yeah, so they can try and like fight against the Mage's forces.
Yeah.
But I don't really know who I could say like I think it's this person.
I think
because, again,
I think you're leaning towards
It'd be-
Sifrin as number one, but
I probably am subconsciously thinking Sifrin because I can't really. It's like the way I go about it is I've got to accuse someone
yeah,
and then defend.
that accusation.
Yeah, defend on behalf of them, and I can't really fully defend anyone other than like being it can't be Mox because Mox is dead. Okay, well that's simple.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it can't be Great Ma because Great Ma's dead. It can't be Sifrin because.
But is Great Ma dead?
Well, Great Ma had already fallen. He said so.
that
Assumed like it, yeah.
that doesn't
That
mean
sounds
necessarily that she's dead. I mean, I'm just saying, like, there's no bodies. We had that conversation, so
Yeah. That's the thing that annoys me the most. Is like that's the thing that I'm always like going back and thinking about. Like, why were their bodies not there? Why would you take bodies away? Why would you? Does the mage need dead bodies? Why would you not like? Surely you'd just be like, well, they're dead. Okay, onwards.
well, I don't look at the mage as a necromancer or anything like that. So at least it hasn't been, hinted at. So
Or unless Isla's mother and father are, they can be bleached, which means Isla may have to go up against their mother and father, which will be fun.
I would find it surprising that they would kill Isla's mother and father and take Simi's and Tao's parents to be bleached. That just seems strange to me.
Yeah, it seems that specifically them. Why specifically? Why specifically their parents? Why not like? Well, like if like you were saying, like I say, if like you're saying, Pierre was the mage, that make more sense.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, you're gonna want your mommy and daddy there. I mean,
Yeah,
but no grandma. But maybe this is all a big misunderstanding.
I'm sure it is, and I'm sure once the third book comes out, we'll probably end up reflecting on this, or even rewatching this, whatever you want to call it, podcast, whatever, being like, oh God, why was I thinking that? What an idiot I am, or But
Go back. Well, again, as you said before, if I see it that if the mage is going to be somebody who we've never met before in the third book, it's going to have the writing style be incredibly weird and different because
oh yeah,
it's just going to have to find them because it's all written from her point of view.
mm-hmm.
So she's going to have to spend time with the mage
Mm-hmm.
and quite a bit of time with the mage because, or at least I hope a bit of time with the mage because I hope it doesn't like gloss over why he's doing what he's doing in like one chapter.
Now here's an interesting
Like,
point.
oh,
Here's an interesting point. I was while you were saying that, I was thinking about this. I'm like, okay, she spent a crap load of time with Sifrin. spent a crap load of time with Heike, which to me is almost like, all right, Sifrin was book 1, Heike was book 2. There's your number 2. There's your 2 suspects right there. Now think about it, kind of. But here's the thing: there was a fair number of chapters in the first and second book, I think, that was all about fleshing out Isla and Piri's relationship when they were younger, which in of itself is, here's Isla with another character, here it is. Like we're setting you up here for figuring it out. So I just think that solidifies the 3 theories, that the 3 candidates that I have for possibly being the Mage.
Yeah, but I don't know about your Pierre one. I think that's a bit.
Again, I think that's a bit
of a stretch.
I think all of them are a stretch to some degree, but I think because combining shock and awe factor of a reveal as well as the evidence that's there that could solidify and verify this the reveal, to me it just says Piri. Because the shock and awe of that's going to be, oh my gosh, now Isla must have to fight her sibling and her beloved brother, or is he going to try to get her to see his way of thinking, whatever the deal is. So that's going to be something for the readers that is just going to be, oh my goodness, but again, and I think that there's enough evidence there along the way that it's not going to be something that somebody's going to be like, oh no, that couldn't have happened, but
It's going to have to be, from what I can see, it's going to have to be Sifrin, or, and a pretty good shocking reveal, or it's going to be a brand new Fox we've never heard of, and not a very good reveal.
I think, and that's
it's
the annoying
thing. That the writer isn't going for.
And I don't know about the writers so much. Like I never read any of the Warriors books, or I forget what the one with the dogs was. I own a Warrior book, and I own one of the dogs.
I've never read it either. So.
Yeah, but I've never read it.
I've even heard of it before.
So it's like I don't know what to expect, and I know I know that the writer of Foxcraft is only one of several individuals.
Is that cheating though? Using previous their previous work for other things to be like?
I don't think so.
How they write.
I think
so. They do big reveals.
I mean, I think you could make the argument that that's not cheating, because if you look at Stephen King or another writer like him, like almost all of his, there's almost a formulaic way of things go down.
That is true. So you'll be able to tell. Yeah, you can tell what's coming based on what's happened before. So
exactly.
If you knew more about, if you knew more about the writer, would that reveal things? And do they do big things?
And the other thing is too is like, if this is just, to my understanding, it's just one writer for Foxcraft. So it's like, how much of an influence did this writer have on the direction that the other books went? Exactly. So I would say that it's fair to use that as a way of trying to determine what's going to happen. But at the same time, in this case, I don't think it's going to be very helpful, because it is very much an unknown. And again, don't take that to mean that this this writer hasn't written anything before. She may have. I just haven't done that research. All I know is that she was involved in these other 2 series, and now she's doing this series as her own, to my understanding. So yeah,
there's a book. There's some in the back of the about the author thing.
Mm-hmm.
The Tigerine Cat.
Okay.
Tigerine Cat on the Run was listed among 50 books every child should read.
And again, I'd like to point out that these are children's books, and Nyrox Matthews in his late 20s, and I'm in my very early 30s. But the
now
bottom,
they know. God, thanks.
The bottom line is I find these books to be pretty entertaining.
There's no age limit on it, so
exactly.
Who cares?
But
I'd still read books from my childhood if I could, because I love the stories about Biff, Kip, and Chipper, which no one who is not English.
I was going to say that sounds like a very Britishy thing, but
the Magic Key was amazing. What are you on about?
Getting slightly off topic.
Anyway, going back, it's probably not going to. No. But the other thing I could think of was that I thought, is it still going to be written from Isla's point of view here?
I would assume so.
Could we have one where it's from Perry's point of view?
Now that's actually an interesting thought too, because they kind of left Isla off in a very good position, in my opinion, to at least have the first few chapters be from another perspective, either like
Yeah.
Sifrin trying to catch up to her, which
Because
would surprise me because that didn't happen in the first one. But
because if they did that and it was from Perry's point of view, then you'd meet the mage, and that could set up like
that would
slightly
be
understanding who the mage is.
that would be an interesting experience, I think.
Yeah, because that's the one thing I'm hinging everything on. Like, we don't know who the mage is. It'd be weird to have this last book revealing who the mage is.
Yeah,
Because in every other thing, the character, the big bad person is like,
that's actually
maybe a bit of a stretch, but like Lord of the Rings, we know who the bad guy is from the beginning. I know it's not the same book, but like, just for one example, it's the only book that I'm reading currently as well. But like, from that book, we know who the bad guy is from the beginning, and in every other book and every other story, you know who the bad guy is most of the time from the beginning, or you know who the bad guy is towards the middle.
yeah.
Whereas now we're coming to the last final.
Possibly.
And we still haven't met them.
We're hinging this entirely on the prospect that this might be the last book of this.
We couldn't
series.
find out, could we? We couldn't find out if there was if this is the last one, because it could well be there's 3 books planned after this one.
The one thing that throws me off with that is that it's specifically on the binder, at least for mine, because I know your versions are slightly different. It says book 1, book 2, and then it will say book 3, which I've seen that done with trilogies before, but I've also seen that done more frequently with books that go on for more than 3 books.
Yeah.
So
My bindings have no indication of that.
you got some weird ones, but
Like, it's never really revealed, is it? If this is the last book until it comes out, really, is there?
no, exactly.
But then
well,
when this one comes
possibly.
out, we'll know.
I've seen it also done the other way too, where it's like we're doing a trilogy and that's the way it's going to be. But
I thought I did see someone mention that, but that this was going to be the 3rd book. But...
again, slightly off topic.
Yeah. Well, no script. You can go off topic if you want.
Yeah.
No one's telling us to wrap it up.
Anybody that would be listening in on this would be wanting the Foxcraft.
Hello. If you're still listening, why?
But,
if you're still listening, why? Go away. We're done.
yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, regardless, September. Forget the actual date, but September time. It'd be interesting.
I think it was mid-September sometime. Yeah.
And we're going to spend the entire day doing nothing but reading the book.
Possibly even taking a personal day off of work just to read the book. Yeah. So.
I'm reading a kid's book.
Yeah.
What do you mean I'm fired?
Yeah, pretty much. But
what do you mean how old I am, sir?
But I don't know. Again, it's like I think one of the reasons why this book in this series is interesting to me as it is because a lot of the stuff that I write, either personally or with the intent to publish, follows a kind of similar dynamic where there's more animal. The main characters are animals, and it's from their perspective and that sort of thing. And I don't know. I mean, Nyrox and I both have a massive cast of characters for similar stories that we're not writing together, but that we're both writing. And
sadly, I focus more on magic, so mine's a bit less realistic.
So Foxcraft is perfect for you.
Yeah, but my magic is throwing fireballs and whatnot. And
well, I would argue that being able to transform into an eagle to fly over a river is no more magic or less magic than slinging a fireball. But anyway. Again.
The other reason why I like these books as well is I don't care what anyone thinks, but the font is nice and big. It's nice and easy to read. I mean,
it is. That's a good point.
So, I mean, coming from Lord of the Rings, like I was saying, Lord of the Rings is font size like 8, and I think the books, it's the same size as the Foxcraft books actually. And it's like you spend 5 minutes reading 3 pages, and that's it. It literally takes 5 minutes because the text is so small. And I like that these books are actually, even though they are aimed at kids, they're easy to read.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and again, for me, it's more the topic than anything.
The topic as well.
I tend to have a bit more of I put a bit more stock in character development than I do like the story side of it, or setting the setting. LOL. But setting the scene would be the better way of saying that. For me, it's about the character development and the journey. That's the most interesting to me. I get attached to the characters more than I get attached to the story or the setting or whatever the case may be. But yeah,
this is why it's really annoying having to wait till September.
Mm-hmm.
Make it September.
Well, I think that's probably a fairly good spot to to end it, sadly, because I think we're kind of grasping at straws here, and it's already about 54.5 minutes in. So
What's the deal with airline food? I heard a snort.
yeah, you did. So anyway, I'm gonna call it unless you got anything else that you want to bring up on this.
Nope. All I want to say is sorry for boring anyone who's listening to this.
Yeah, I'm sure there's one or two, or
yeah, you one or
1,000.
two.
One or
Yeah.
two out of the 3 or 4 that are actually watching and listening to this. But
The others have just walked off and gone away.
yeah. But anyway, yeah,
Read the
that's
book, it's fun.
that. Yeah, I highly recommend the series, and like we were saying, you know, the third one's going to come out in September, and whether or not that's going to breed more books after it.
10 out of 10 would read again.
Yeah, that too. And as to whether or not we'll do another discussion like this for when the third book comes out, probably, I would say. I mean, I would like to.
Yeah, I would too.
I'd like to do one for The Hunt for Elsewhere as well, which we've both already read.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so there might... Oh, go ahead.
I'd like to say, though, as well, who wrote the book, but I can't pronounce that name really well.
It's a very...
But
yeah.
in Bali... Oh, God, no. Sorry, even have to. In Bali...
If I'm not mistaken, she either lives in England and lived in LA for a time, or lives in LA and lived in England, something like that.
England.
But yeah.
Because I remember going like, "Whoa, that doesn't look like an English name."
Yeah. But
In Bali, I'm not entirely sure. I'm bad at pronouncing everything.
yeah, but
you'll find Foxcraft easy enough as well.
yeah, I mean it's again like Nyrox was saying too. I don't think the age thing is really relevant here. I think it's a pretty good story.
There's no age limit on it, so therefore it's for everyone.
Yeah, there you go.
That's how I see it.
Fair enough. But
yeah.
But yeah, highly recommend it, and hopefully we'll have something else sometime down the road that you guys might find some interest in as well. So,
was the spot September 18th? This where we talk about the Mage.
Give a day or two to read it, I suppose, but
it's gonna read it on the day.
Yeah, that's championship right there. That you're trying to.
Yeah.
But anyway, I'm good. I'm out. Unless you got something else.
Nope, I'm out too.
All right, peace out then.